Well, hello there, and thank you for joining us once again for Roundtable. I'm your host, Adam Cook. If you watched last week's show, you might remember that Richmond District RCMP Constable Jeff Pierre was giving some tips on how to deal with fraud and scam when it might arrive in your home. Well, we're going to continue with that particular discussion this week as part of a special edition of Roundtable dealing with Fraud Prevention Month, which just happens to be this month, the month of March. So you're going to hear more in a couple of moments from Constable Jeff Pierre, and you're also going to hear from another speaker from the same event at St. Louis Parish Hall in Louisdale in February, the branch manager for St. Joseph's Credit Union, LeeAnne Marchand. But first, let's return to Constable Jeff Pierre giving some advice on what you might expect from a scam or a fraud when it arrives in your home and what you can do about it.
So the first one that we have, the medical scam. So what happens usually is that mostly online, you have those pharmacies that will advertise this magic recipe where all of a sudden any illnesses that exist can be cured, right? You pay for that magic pill and your troubles are going to be gone. They usually want to charge you a big amount of money for that. They ask you to pay maybe upfront for shipping and somewhat. There's no guarantee per se. There's nothing that proves that that pill or that medication is legitimate. But they will give you all those fine prints that are like black and white. It's good, it works. So many people tried it, you gotta try it. So this is always a trick or a way for them to attract more people and get their service. So it starts with one person, two people, and then eventually more people get into buying them. Another way around the medical scam would be the weight loss programs. Some of them advertise drastic change. They don't take into account what type of person that you are, what diet you eat or this and that. They tell you, no, you got to take this program, you pay for it, and the results are going to come. Usually that, if it's not tailored to you personally, means that most likely it's a scam. Another thing to think about, those online pharmacies, some of them do exist, they are legitimate. You can find the information, so their addresses, contact information, they're registered as well. And most of them that are legitimate, whenever you need to buy medication, they require you to have a prescription. So again, if you have your family doctor, I would say go straight with that. But some online pharmacy do in fact work, but it's still something that you need to keep your eye out when you have someone telling you that all of a sudden they have that one miracle medication for you to use. Another type of scam, investment scam. So pyramid scheme or Ponzi scheme is often a term that we've heard. So the way it works is that you have a business coming up to you. They tell you, I know you're interested in having more money. The one thing I'll ask you to do is to pay an entry fee. Okay, you become a member. That entry fee down the line, you'll get a return on it. It'll come back to you. But the only way for you to have more money is essentially to have more people coming in following you. So the trend is you reach out to a family member, to some friends, and then you start talking. You tell them, hey, I have this opportunity to have money. If you come in with me, you know, the entry fee is what, $100, $200, and then you get to be in that business. You're gonna get some return as well. So that's actually a pyramid scheme. It's illegal here in Canada. So whenever you have someone coming up to you and talking to you about placing money to attain and reach maybe a higher status in the company and get more money, alarms. Okay, so basically avoid that at all costs. Price scams. Best example for that one, you get a phone call today telling you, hey, you've won a prize. Now for you to get access to that prize, they ask you to pay for a premium. There's certain common sense that doesn't work there, right? So essentially, prize scams, you get contacted, but you've never made the move to actually participate in that contest or that tournament. All right. The only time that usually you would get some sort of reward is if you voluntarily sign up for a contest, or someone that signed you up. Hey, I got your name. I put you in that raffle, right? But whenever you get a phone call and then they tell you, this is the situation, you're gonna get access to the funds. You won the prize, but you need to pay upfront for you to get your prize, right? The minute you hear something like that, put an X on it, okay? Charity scams. I want to be nice about that because I'm pretty sure most of us have seen a situation like that. You have a little desk, maybe at the mall or at a store that you usually go to, and you have this person sitting there. They have a little box with them. They accept donation for a certain charity, right? Sometimes we question ourselves. We think it's legit, but sometimes we're not too sure. The person is extremely nice, extremely professional. They ask you maybe for a few bucks. They link it up maybe with a recent disaster as well. Now, you're in your rights to say no if you don't want to donate, right? One way that you could go around and make sure that this charity event is legitimate, you can go on the CRA website and verify that it's registered. You can ask the person for more information. Who do they help? Where's their main office? How do they distribute the funds? Those are all questions that you're allowed to have answers about. Now, for charity scams, like I said, their strategy is usually to have some sort of indirect pressure. So they play around with emotions, and then they take the funds out of that. Like I said, just make sure that if you're not too sure, go on the website or call CRA. Validate that charity is actually registered, and you'd be good to go to contribute if you want to. The money transfer and email internet is somewhat linked. Pretty sure if some of you are used to receiving emails, checking your junk mails sometimes where you get a bunch of those emails that are nonsense, you'll notice that the trend for money transfer is someone that lives far in a different continent. They want to have access to funds. Inheritance money sometimes it's a big lump sum of money that's simply blocked away by the local government or the local police group. So at that point, they ask you to transfer them money to have a base. With that, they'll be able to upfront the unblockage of those funds, and then you'll get a return on that as well. Another thing that they'll do, again, playing with emotions, they give themselves a title. Sometimes they're a doctor, sometimes they're lawyers, sometimes they're the vice president of this X company that's massive. So again, they play around, they plant the seed of some sort of legitimate information for you to feel maybe empathetic, and at that point to contribute to that. So whenever you see, again, that they request you to send money for you to get more, again, ring those bells. That's a scam. Also, different means that they go about that. When they say send money, they do wire transfer. They do Interac email money transfer. It is traceable, but for us, if we need to trace those funds, it could go, first of all, anywhere, and the funds movement are extremely quick. So the time lapse in which the transfer was done versus when the police gets the information about that sometimes is too far in between for us to actually find the right person that stole the funds and this and that. So again, keep in mind, not to use wire transfer, especially if you get the information online. Don't use Interac email money transfer. I'm not sure if you were familiar with that option. Most originally when Interact Email Money Transfer started, you had to create a security question and a security answer. You send the email to the person in which you want to send the funds. They get the password, they accept the funds. Now, most of the banks give you an option to do a direct deposit. So it skips the process of answering that question. The minute you receive the link with the Interact, the money gets dumped in your account. So again, when we talk about us doing an investigation afterwards, it's harder for us to get the information. Sometimes we don't even get to the person that stole the money. The next scam that we have, the services scam. So what happens there is mostly like a third party. What they do is that they pretend to work for a big company. So let's say a technician that's from a small company that works in parallel with Microsoft. They let you know that your computer has some sort of virus. There's an issue with it. They don't know you, right? But they know that your computer has an issue. So what they want is for you to click on that small box, for you to install a program. That program gets on your computer and they tell you, look, this is the right way to do it. We'll take care of your computer remotely, right? So by doing so, they're able to control your computer in the distance. They're able to fish for personal information that you have maybe saved. So maybe invoices, maybe some bills or anything that you have on your computer, some pictures. And then they take that, and then once they're done, they disconnect from that application, and they already done what they need to do. So whenever they talked about, again, the key thing to remember is they proactively offer you a service, something that you never really thought you needed, right? So this is definitely something you need to think about. They'll do the same thing with credit cards. They claim that they work for Visa, that they work for MasterCard, and they'll tell you all of a sudden that they can play around with your interest rate, that they can lower or increase your limit for your credit card. I can tell you from the get-go, I used to work at RBC. I worked for National Bank as well before being an officer. There are campaigns from financial institutions to call out clients, but at that point, it means that we have access to your banking profile. Whenever a company like that tells you that they can play around with the rates, they have no way. The banks don't outsource that service to a third party, okay? I'll give you the tip for that. Again, we'll talk about the financial aspect of things. But whenever you have somewhat of a discussion like that, someone that comes up to you with that, again, put it aside. Don't go through with it. The next one that I have, the romance scam. So it happens often on dating websites. It happens also on chat groups. And the key thing to remember is that those profiles, they're just information that are created. There's no way for you to know if that person, whatever they put on their page, is it true? They can take a picture from anywhere. They can take the information from anywhere. They type it up. They make it clean. They make it beautiful. And all of a sudden, this is a real person, right? We're not all police officers. We don't know, what they've done or what they haven't done. The one thing you need to remember is just to be wary of that. Don't trust what people say online necessarily. If you don't know the person, there's no reason for you to actually feel 100% connected to that person. The end goal for them is to create that link with you. They will open up slowly. They see that they have a certain connection. You spend a day, you spend a week, exchange it with that person. They get more information from you, and that's how they get to know you. But in reality, in the first place, they didn't know who you were. So that's the one thing that we need to think about whenever we go on those websites. I'm not saying don't go on any chatting websites, any dating websites. I've done it all as well when I was younger, right? But be aware that there's a risk to it. And don't feel obligated. Don't feel that person owes you anything, because in the first place, before you sign up to that website, you didn't know that person either, right? So again, that's the logic that we have for romances scams. Emergency family in need grandparent scam. So that one, I'm not sure if you've heard about that, but the way it works is that you have either a grandson or a son that gets in contact with a grandparent and let them know that they have some sort of health emergency or financial emergency. Sometimes they're even away, different province. Again, we know that that person doesn't know the senior citizen, right? But they still go and start a conversation hoping to get more information to make it seem that they're in fact related. And then what they say is, look, I'm stuck here. I need some money to be unstuck. I was in contact with second scammer. I was in contact with a lawyer or a police officer. They know the situation, they know the file. Here's the phone number, call them. Now you're in talk with the second scammer that validates the same story. And then what they want to do is for you to release some funds to make sure that the first scammer gets released. So there's always a strategy behind that, but it's again, the same cycle comes back, right? Get information, end result, you need to send money away. It's always that. It's always the main goal. So again, make sure to speak to your loved ones, validate if in fact they were on a trip, right? It could be a coincidence as well. It could be that in fact your son or your grandson or your grandchild is in fact away and there's an issue. But this information can be validated with different people in the family as well, or friends or someone, right? So it's to be informed. That's the key thing to remember. And then the last one I have is extortion. I got a phone call a couple weeks ago. You get a scammer that pretends that he works from CRA. And then he tell you that they need your social insurance number. If you don't, then your account will be blocked. Another way around that would be you have a certain amount owing to the government. Now you need to call that number or you need to make a payment right away. You have a balance that you should receive. Now you need to call that number or send money this way and you'll get access to the funds. CRA will never get in contact with you to tell you that. You might have some third-party collection agency that will contact you if you don't pay your bills, but CRA does not want you to share information that they already have. Your SIN number is actually already in their system, right? You do your income taxes every year. They don't need that information. Now, and we'll get to that with the next slide, you could always disconnect from the call or simply erase that email that you got that states that. You either log in on your CRA profile or you call CRA directly at your own time and you can double check the information. So those are the main ones, right? The ones that we see on a daily. Like I said, and you'll see it in the next slide, all the points that I'll talk about, they're not in a particular order. You can use all of them to prevent a scam or fraud situation. Remote access to any device, whether it's computer, cell phone, disregard that, okay? Like I said, they want to install programs and software. There's no need for you to do that. If really you have an issue with your computer, if you really have an issue with your phone, there's a few businesses out there that are, again, registered, that are legit, that you can walk in. You pay for the service. You bring your equipment, you go there, they'll take care of it for you, okay? So we talked about the information about your banking. Do not reply to emails asking you for personal information. It's the same principle as the first one when we talked about exchanging personal and financial information. There's no reason for you to click on a specific link. I didn't give you this example, but often you'll get a FedEx email telling you that your package was received, but Canada Post is, but again, for that, you could always check the information. So either you walk in, or I deal with Amazon, right? And I often get an email confirmation if the package wasn't received. So what I do is I link up to my Amazon profile, I look at the orders that I've made recently. So the most updated one, check it, I can validate the tracking from there. And if really it says that it's now at Louisdale or now in Harrishat, then now I know that I can walk in and talk to the clerk at the post office. So they do that with FedEx, they do that with Amazon, they do that with a bunch of services. There's no reason for you also not to call the customer service line and then, just verify. We talked about the price cams. Important to always, I know we hate that, but read the fine prints on anything. And I mean, it's valid for anything that you purchase or anything that you participate in. Validate what are the terms and conditions. Validate if the contest or tournament or whatever is being given to you, if it's legit. Validate if there's something that you need to do. Other than pay extra money, is there maybe something that you need to forward, like information, right? Do they ask you to provide your SIN number all of a sudden for you to get a prize? So read those lines. Again, I know I'm guilty of that as well. Sometimes I don't, I don't read when you have a contract. Another example I like to give, same thing in a dealership, right? You buy a new car, you get how many contracts? A few, right? A few documents. Read all of them. Even if the seller is in front of you and you feel like he wants you to sign that last document that says you're good to go, take the time to read everything. And the last point I had here, so don't commit if you feel pressure. The whole gut feeling thing, it's true. Stick to it. Okay? If you feel that again something is wrong, don't go through with it. Right? So, I think it's a scam. Okay? We talked about not being embarrassed. That's what it is. Don't be embarrassed. Okay? You have a couple ways to actually communicate that you either were part of a scam or feel that some event is a scam. So you can contact the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. Okay? You can contact their phone number or the website. They have a database where they fill in the information of most of the scams, everything that's out there. They do their part in educating people also in what to look at for in terms of scams. And it's managed by the RCMP as well and the OPP. So, we're aware of that. This is a legit website. You can definitely contact them if needs be. Also, contact your local RCMP detachment, whether it's St. Peter's, whether it's Harrishat. If you're in a different region, different province, contact the local force as well. Just advise them, at least for a report to be built, investigation to go through. If it's something that we can, direct you on the spot, we'll do so. If we need a little bit more time to investigate on the matter, we'll let you know. We'll communicate that with you as well. But again, it's important. I would say again, it's important to talk about it. The minute something is off, something happened, don't wait a year, don't wait a couple of months. I've had a situation of a lady that called me a year after because it happened to her husband the year before. And now because it happened to her, she called to report the event. Don't wait. The minute something happened, call us and communicate it. Now, in conclusion, okay, protect your information. Always make sure to keep it for yourself. If it's not the doctor, if it's not dealing with the bank, if it's not dealing with something that you have to deal with, don't share it with anybody, okay? If you have power of attorney, then you don't need to think about it, right? You have someone that takes care of that for you. But essentially, don't share your information out there, especially not on random websites. We talked about it before, pause and ask questions. So whenever you get in touch with someone, whether it's face-to-face or over the phone or even by email, take a breather, read it, talk to the person, look at them in the eyes, ask the questions. If you're not comfortable or you need more information about it, take the time to do so. Okay? Take the time to do so. I like to bring it back to anything that comes out of this pocket is yours, right? The first person that gets, sad or disappointed is yourself. So you're in the right to put a stop to that right from the get-go if you don't feel comfortable. And lastly, ask yourself, is it too good to be true, right? Is it something that all of a sudden magically appears and, it never happens to anyone, but then all of a sudden it happens to you? Think about that as well, okay? So I had here a couple of references. Some of you, if you want to take them down, I'll be able to share also the presentation. So if you can't see it because it's too far, don't worry about it either. But you have, just to name a few, so contacts for MasterCard, Visa, you have Equifax, Senior Canada, the ARC, you have Service Canada. So make sure to put in all the information there. Some of the details that I shared through the presentation are available on those websites. Also, in terms of servicing, if you need to call them, whenever you go on a website, they have most of them have a contact number. So if you're not comfortable, navigating the web for that, you can also find the phone number and speak to an agent.
Don't some of our telephone companies have a responsibility for a lot of these phone scams? For example, the most recent one I had is Olivia from Amazon. When I first look at the call display, it's a really lengthy number. I ignore it. I let it go to my answering machine, and of course they don't leave a message. I've had 2 of those in a row. Then all of a sudden it's a local number. You pick it up. It's Olivia from Amazon, and she has a credit for you. So hang up. 5, 6 times in a row, the same evening, all these calls come in. So don't our phone companies, aren't they the ones selling these numbers to people? And if they are, can they not be traced? Because we get a phone number, you know who we are, where to find us. These people are buying local numbers, so the people who don't have call display, they pick it up anyway. But for those of us that do, we can't ignore that. It's a 226 number in my case. That's a local number. So they're using local numbers to get you to pick up the phone. Yeah. Can that not be stopped? And the phone companies are contributing to this. They're selling them.
I would tell you, you're definitely an valid point for that. I would tell you to maybe, I know Bell had some sort of a specific team that they had set up to fight that. I'm not sure if it's open to customers. I know that also the new phones, so if you're talking about your cell phone, you have an option to block caller ID, phone numbers that just like a junk mail option, basically. You could use that on your smartphone, but if not, if it's really the same number that's calling you, or if it's
This is a landline.
It's a landline, I would suggest you to call the phone company and see if they have something in place at that point. Because
The thing is, we do have access to blocking numbers, but they just keep coming back different numbers. It's always different numbers, so it's a waste of time to block them. They're going to send another series of numbers out there. And the next day I went to my mother's for a visit, same thing, she had 7 calls in a row. And she doesn't have call display, so she gets up to answer the phone every time, yeah.
Make an official complaint if you have. That would be another route. Maybe see if you can speak to someone at the head office.
They know who's buying these numbers, they know. We can't get a phone number unless we let them know who we are. They know who's buying these numbers. They're selling these numbers to people, so they're responsible for some of these phone scams.
Well, to be honest with you, we don't go through the phone companies just like that. It's not, yeah.
Cannot the RCMP fraud investigation check into this and see if they can track down numbers like that?
Like I said, the first step is to get in contact with Customer service, if customer service can't give you the information, see if you could speak to a supervisor. And then at that point, if there's a complaint section, officialize it that way. That'd be the best way to go about it.
Just a reminder that you're watching Roundtable on Telile Community Television. I'm your host, Adam Cook. We have another speaker from the We Care Days event that took place in Louisdale in mid-February. LeeAnne Marchand is the branch manager for St. Joseph's Credit Union, and in the next few minutes she's going to share her perspective on fraud and scams and what you can do if it happens to you.
So identity theft is a crime that's committed by thieves who steal one person's identifying information to get money or credit in their name. So this is not always a matter of people just wanting to hack your account and steal your money. People are also looking to steal your identity. And with that identity, once I know that I have Zelia Poirier's information, maybe I'm going to apply for an MBNA card. Maybe I'm going to apply for a Calabria card. Maybe I'm going to apply for a Canadian Tire MasterCard. They're not just looking to hack your account and get your money. They're looking for other ways of how they can access money in your name. So, you know, there's definitely things to be careful of there. What is fraud? It's a criminal deception intended to result in personal and or financial gain. So Elizabeth said, why would they do that? Why would they prey on the innocence of a grandparent, you know, and say your child is in trouble? Well, they don't care about Elizabeth. They don't care about anybody in this room. They care about the bottom line. They care about what they're going to get. And they're getting more aggressive in their world. This world of technology has opened up a whole new venue for them to proceed with what their primary goal in life is. So there's no feelings involved in this. You know, it doesn't matter if they've, you know, gone into your lifelong savings. At the end of the day, they have a report, you know, they have a number to report, and that's what their intention is. So true or false? Only very old people and very young people fall for the tricks that thieves use to commit identity theft or fraud. False. Absolutely 100%. It's vulnerabilities. And I have no idea. Sometimes I almost feel like they have a crystal ball that they look into, and, you know, they can say, you know, Joe is a grandfather and he has 3 children. It's like they must do so much research and can absolutely target an individual and know those vulnerabilities. So it happens to everybody. It happens to young, it happens to old. So yes, that is false. So we're going to talk about what information thieves want. So they are looking for anything that, again, they're going to be able to call a credit union and say, hi, this is Herman Linden. You know, I live at blah, 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 blah. My phone number is blah, 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 blah. You know, what have you. They're going to have that all that information. So for us as a financial institution now, I mean, we know most of our members. That's, you know, that's what we aim to do. But we've even had to change our tactics on identifying an individual when they're calling in. You know, so it won't just be anymore, okay, so, you know, I have your name and I have your phone number and you've confirmed your date of birth. You know, now we're looking at, can you give me the last 3 digits of your PIN? Can you tell me what products and services you'd have with us? Can you tell me the last transaction that would be on your account? So it's not just, you know, people and the general public. We as a financial institution, and all financial institutions, are having to up their game now, because we can be frauded just as easily as anybody else can. You know, and we hold, you know, a lot of information in our hands. You know, I picked up a phone call yesterday because our lines were crazy, and it was like, we are calling to tell you that your credit card has been compromised. Well, we have 7 lines, 14 employees, whose credit card was, you know, like, it's just these general phone calls that come through that they're just trying to get you to get that information. Okay, so full name, address, birth date, social insurance number, bank account details, credit card number, and expiry date. Those are the things, they're the key pieces of information that an individual can use to steal your identity. So those are the things you want to be very careful of. As the constable said, you don't, if you're getting a call from your financial institution, they have all that information. You're not going to have to verify that. If CRA is calling you, you're not going to have to verify. They have all that information. You know, we could be part of an investigative team, I'm sure. We know so much information about our membership. So, you know, we're not going to call you asking for that. Again, if we are calling and you're not sure of it, like I said, we're getting ready to do a data cleanup and verifying that addresses are what they are. If you're not comfortable taking that call, you say, I'm going to call you back. And that is your right. And really, that would be the smart thing to do if you're not positive that you're speaking to LeeAnne or Tiffany or whomever. What documents should you protect? So you want to keep your bank statements safe. You want to keep your credit card statements safe. Your driver's license, your registration, all those ID pieces, you want to keep them safe. Your checkbook, you know, some people have tended to move away from checkbooks, but checks are still very prevalent in today's society. We see check fraud every day. You know, we get fraud scams, we get fraud warnings, grid warnings they're called, and we see, you know, checks that were found that people are trying to negotiate. And, you know, if there's not holds and things placed on these, you know, on these deposits, financial institutions, you know, are going to have to take that out of that individual's account. So if Mary, you know, negotiates a check from somebody, she deposits the $600, takes the $600 out, and when it comes back NSF or not a valid check, we're going to have to take that $600 back from Mary's account. So keep those checkbooks safe. Of course, your SIN number, you should never have to give that. Computer access, your passwords, that again is not something that you want to be giving out. Tricks that the thieves use to steal your information. They'll call you and ask you, you know, like, can you provide me with your SIN number? It's those threats, and they're so aggressive. And I think that that's what happens, is that people panic because there's such a tone of panic from the caller that they make you panic. So, you know, you want to be, they're calling, they're asking you for information that you know they have no need to know. So again, follow your gut. They email you and text you to get a reply and share your information. The old traditional way, they're breaking into your house or stealing your information, or they steal your mail from your mailbox. You know, and not that long ago, that was the biggest concern was, you know, in training that we've had through our financial institution, you know, dumpster diving. People would look and you'd always be saying, shred your documents, make sure your documents, you know, put them in the fire, burn them, shred them, make sure you just don't throw out statements or receipts because there's enough information there for somebody to steal your identity. So, you know, but now we're in a whole new world. That still remains a threat. But now we've got this online world where, you know, most of us are users of social media. We're sharing all of this information with good intentions and with, you know, with pride of this, that, and the other thing. But, you know, people out there can use that and not in good ways. So popular internet scams, and again, the officer spoke to these, the lotteries and contests. You know, we had a member come in and they wanted $2,500 out of their account. And again, we go through a multitude of training sessions. And so, you know, if you're going to your FI and the teller is asking you questions, it's not that they want to be nosy, it's that they're trying to protect you. You know, they're trying to protect your information. So this person came up and they said, well, I want a prize, and I just have to send the $2,500 for delivery. And we said, we need to talk to you. You know, so I brought that person into my office, and I'm telling you, it took everything in my power to convince this person that this was a scam, because they're so convincing on the other line. No, you know, we're bringing in a Mercedes, and, you know, that's all it is. Like, you know, so it's, yeah, they're very convincing. And again, I think somebody had said, like, this person, you know, you would think there would be no reason, but these scammers are so aggressive, and they're professionals at what they do. That's just it in a nutshell. Money transfer requests. A lot of the scams that we have seen, and a lot of the losses that we have seen, are people that are selling things online. Again, as a financial institution, just like all of you, we carry insurances. And those insurances have limitations on it. So if you're sending an email transfer, so the scams we have seen is I'm selling a trailer. And I'm selling it for $10,000. They're sending me $15,000. So I'm depositing that money. And then they're saying, oh, the $5,000 was for the moving company to pick up the trailer. So you need to send that back to them. Well, once you've initiated that transfer and you've sent that $5,000, we can't help you. We cannot help you after that, because once you initiate that, our insurances will not cover that. So it's something to be very, very careful of. You know, when you're trying to sell something online, be very, very careful. If they're sending you a payment and they're overpaying, that's a big red flag. Big red flag. Phishing, the CRA deposit, again, the constable spoke about that. We've had many calls come through. We've had members come to our desks crying, you know, like, oh my gosh, CRA is going to freeze this and I'm not going to be able to get that, and they're going to hold my pension checks, and they're not going to do that. They are not going to do that, I promise you. They're not going to do that. Junk mail, pop-ups requesting information. So you're on a site and then something pops up, you know, when they want that information. X that out. Don't be messing around with that stuff. And romance scams, as I indicated earlier, we had a member, and you know, the gentleman gave this member complete access to this account. And then $2,500 later, and again, still very convinced, because they take those days and weeks and months to build up that relationship, you know, and prey on that vulnerability, like, could not believe that this could possibly be a scam. So. Popular phone call scams, and again, I may be repetitive here. You have a computer virus. I think Richard talked about that. You don't have a virus, you know. Chances are you don't have a virus. If you feel like perhaps you do, take it to somebody certified to check out your laptop or your computer. You've won a lottery. Give me your bank account information. No, thank you. No, you're not getting my bank account. You do not need to give your bank account information to anybody. Your loved one has an emergency and needs cash. We've had that situation. We've had a member call in a total panic that their grandchild was in trouble, you know, and to try to talk that individual down and say, have you spoken to his mother? You know, call his mom and make sure he's okay before you do this. But again, it's that preying on the vulnerability that's just awful. And the tax scams, again, the constable spoke on that, receiving a call from CRA stating that you're eligible for additional funding or that there was an adjustment in your taxes. They are not emailing you about that stuff. So ignore those calls. True or false? If you were at a job interview and you're asked for your social insurance number, you must provide it. Correct. You do not have to provide your social insurance number. That is false. Job-related scams. I'm hoping that most of you are not worried too much about that right now when you're enjoying your retirement. But being asked for your credit card details to buy materials for software, you know, you have all these job opportunities that come up, work from home, you know, laptops provided, all that kind of stuff. You just need to give us your credit card number so that we can provide that, you know, to you. No. Being asked for your SIN before you sign an employment contract, you do not have to provide that. And directory scams, a fraudster sends your company a proposal for listings. We get them all the time, you know, at work. You know, do you want to list with this? Do you want to list with that? You know, delete, forward to phishing, you know. Again, this is perhaps not as current as it may have been prior to the internet, but there is a large number of fraud incidents that happen from people not disposing of their credit card statements, of their receipts, you know, of their receipt from Walmart. There's enough information on a Walmart receipt for a fraudster to scam. So take those receipts. When a person says, you know, even if it's at the local co-op, you want your receipt, take the receipt. Dispose of the receipt properly. Check fraud, again, we still, as I've said, we see this a lot. Not so much that it comes from our institution, but we have a shared network where you know, there's advisories given out and kind of notifications so that if you if we as a financial institution see particular checks or particular names coming across the counter, then we are aware. So, you're looking at counterfeit checks. We're looking at forgery. People are finding checks, writing names, signing off on checks, fraud checks, and altered checks. And we see that actually a fair amount in our warnings, where people, instead of $100 transfer or change it to $1,000. So there's a lot of that that still goes on. So if you are still using a checkbook, we would suggest that you order just 50 at a time, that you obviously use a pen, not a pencil. Never leave the to blank, like make sure that you have who that's being payable, who it's payable to. Pardon me, use good envelopes. Never leave your checkbook in your car. And always keep track of your check number order. And, we will have fraud warnings that come through where, a person will say, well, number 99 through 105 is missing. So please be on the lookout. Public Wi-Fi access, there are two types of Wi-Fi access, secure and unsecure. So when we go to, when we're on vacation, when we're in a hotel and they give you your free Wi-Fi password, please do not do banking in those types of situations. You're like a sitting duck, so even to just you really need to be cautious. I would never check my banking or log on to Member Direct in that type of facility. Use your Wi-Fi if you have it, and otherwise do not be using that on public sites. True or false? There are so many identity theft scams to keep up with, it's almost impossible to stay safe. True? It's false. It's false. And I think the thing is, the key to that is sessions like this, where you're being made aware of what is going on out there, and that it's okay to ask questions, and it's okay to say no, as the constable said. It's okay to say, I'm going to call you back. It's just really being aware of what's going on, because if you're not aware, you are going to fall victim. And if you're scared to ask those questions, or you're scared to say no, the potential is very much there for you to fall victim. So how to protect yourself from identity fraud. Never give your credit card information to someone who emails or calls asking for it. So I shop Amazon, I do some online shopping, I submit my credit card, I do support some GoFundMe things, I give my credit card, but those are sources. And again, if I am doing GoFundMe, it's a situation where I know the family and I know that this is going on. But if somebody is going to call or email me and say, I need your credit card number to process this, that's not happening. I'm just not going to do that. So if you're seeking out a legitimate service that is legitimate, they have firewalls, they have security systems there to protect your personal information. I'm not saying that there couldn't be a breach. We've heard of some major breaches from, various companies. But for the most part, they have all the protective nature in place that they need. But if I am calling and I am saying, or if I'm emailing you and saying, Viola, I need your credit card number, and you don't know me from a hole in the wall, and even if she does know me, I should not be asking Viola for her credit card number. So you don't want to be giving that stuff out. And again, if you're on an unsecured site, if you're at the hotel and you're, deciding you're going to browse through Amazon and you find a sweet little dress there you want to pick up, you don't want to be doing that there. You do not want to be doing anything on a public Wi-Fi network that is going to involve any of your personal financial information. So again, we've talked about this. You want to make sure that when you're shredding your documents, you're using a high quality shredder, or you're throwing them in the wood stove or in the wood doctor. Get rid of them. There is a national do not call list. The truth is that you can call and you can register. It doesn't mean that they can't still get through. So those frustrating calls that you get and you try this, it doesn't always work. So that's very unfortunate. So be safe when you're shopping. So when you're online shopping, that HTTPS, that's what you're looking for. Be very, very careful for that. It has to have the HTTPS ://www. That is how you know that is a secure site. Yes. Yeah. So that's something you want to be very careful for. So that is the URL, is what it's called. Make sure it's right. You know, we do recommend, if you're using your credit card, and you can have like a low limit credit card, you know, you may have your main credit card that has whatever limit on it, but you may, for online shopping, just purchase like get a credit card with a $500 limit. You know, something that if they get it, you know, if for some reason you know, that's hacked, that you're not losing the $30,000 that you may have on your main credit card or what have you. So, you know, just some tips that if you are a big online shopper, you may want to consider a low limit card. Protect your computer and your smartphone, so do use an antivirus software. Very important to you know, pay attention to those updates. You can have the software, but if you're not conducting the updates on your computer, it's not going to protect you. You have to make sure that those updates are adhered to. Use anti-spyware software. They are available for your computer, for your laptop, for your desktop. I work at the credit union. I check my account 20 times a day. You know, my husband will laugh at me because he will be still walking to the parking lot of Superstore, and I'll be saying, well, what did you spend $42 on? You know, and like, it's like, I'm not even in the car yet, you know? Yeah, you go, Darlene, you keep them in line. You know, but that's not a bad practice to get into. Your credit card statement, I cannot stress enough to review that statement over and over and over again. We had, a couple of years ago, we had situations where, and I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's called card skimming. So people would insert, fraudsters would insert just this thin sheet into ATMs or into food courts, and you know, and you know, people wouldn't notice it. So you go to the food court, you swipe your card. You're not swiping into the actual machine. You're swiping into this little insert that they've put on it. So they'll leave that there for a couple of months, and then they will go back under the dark, you know, take that information, and then they take it back to their home base, and they manufacture all these credit cards or all these debit cards. And then it's like this mass, so they've got 60, 70, 80 people lined up, and it's like a brute attack. So they're going out with all of these cards to ATMs to purchase, you know, gift cards, and it's just like this major scam. They'll collect information for months and months and months on end, and we've seen it happen to people, to our members, that debits will show up on their credit card months later. You know, a lot of it happens when they're traveling, but it happens here. It's happened in Halifax. We've seen that happen. So important to check your bank statements, your credit union statements, your credit card statements. Check those regularly. Make that a practice. I promise you, it's a really good preventative measure. And if you see a discrepancy, call your financial institution right away. Call your credit card company right away and say, these charges are not mine. So you, as members or clients of a financial institution, place trust in us to advise you accordingly, you know, to do what's in your best interest financially. And we, in turn, put our trust in all of these very expensive companies who monitor the activity of these fraudsters. So they're constantly, you know, looking at, is there a possibility that, you know, institution A could be attacked, or institution B could be attacked, or winners could be attacked, or what have you. So all these things, like this two-step verification, that is an added layer of protection that we're adding, you know, and that we're providing for our membership, not because it's convenient for us, because our phones rang off the hook yesterday, and I'm sure they're ringing off the hook today. And it's a major, major cost to a financial institution to implement these types of services. But we do that because we want to ensure the safety of our members' money. That's our number one priority, is to ensure that your lifelong savings is protected. So do I feel safe? 100%. Would I use Would I log into my online banking when I'm at a hotel? Absolutely not. But if I'm on my private network, if I'm at the credit union where I know that we have firewalls and all of that stuff protecting me, yes, I'm safe. Unless I know that it is a trusted company. And you can Google that. You can search, like there's a, like the Better Business Bureau. You can search to see if there's any complaints on a company. Like I know it's a pain and you wish you could just trust everybody like we trust everybody in our small community, right? But you can't do that in the world of online banking. You can't. You have to make sure that whatever agency that you're dealing with or whatever company or business that you're giving that information to is a legitimate company. I have no problem giving my credit card company to Amazon. That day that Glenn tried to call for car parts down in the States, I canceled my credit card for potential fraud. So, and like that, you know. So it's really making sure your homework is done and you've researched that the company is a legitimate company, which I wasn't comfortable was done, so I just canceled everything. So just some basic information, things never to leave in your car, blank checks, pre-authorized payment schedule for your car insurance. Those are not things, your wallet or your purse, obviously, cell phone, laptop, debit cards and credit cards, that's just cash. And we tell, especially our younger generation, your card now with those tap features, it's like cash. Like you wouldn't leave $500 or even $20 sitting out on your dash nowadays. I mean, you know, you do not want to leave that credit card or that debit card. You don't want to leave that. Treat all of that stuff as cash. And again, your bank statements, you never want to leave those done. So we've talked about this in great length. Check your credit card and bank statements regularly. Pay special attention to withdrawals and pre-authorized payments. And a lot of us nowadays have our pre-authorized payments linked directly to our credit cards so we can accumulate points. But perfect example, you want to make sure that they're not double dipping on that, that they, you know, perhaps even the fees have gone up, you know, and you haven't received notification. And if you're, you know, if you're an individual on a tight budget and your fees go up. So, you know, there's a multitude of reasons, but you want to make sure you're paying attention to those. True or false? It's fine to share my PIN number with family members and my partner. No, no. And you know, you say, oh, Glenn's going to run down and get it. He's fine, but it really isn't, because you are signing an agreement with your financial institution when you get a card that, you know, you are going to maintain the PIN number in privacy. So if we could prove that, you know, or financial institution could prove that it was in Glenn's possession, then they really have they have no reason to cover us, because I've broken that contract by not adhering to that. Protect your passwords and PINs. Memorize them. Do not write them on your PIN card. We have seen that. We have had cards that come back to us that have the 4-digit PIN right on them. Please do not do that. Do not share your PIN, and if you lose your card, please notify your financial institution immediately. Most cards now on your banking system, for us Member Direct, but on your online banking, will have a stop and block option. So if you, and it doesn't necessarily, it won't close your card down. But if you misplaced your card and you're in a panic, you can go on your online banking and there's an option there for you to close your card until you know, have a look around, and then you can reactivate it without necessarily closing the whole card down. Your mail, keep that safe. That contains a lot of information, your credit card statements, you know, CRA correspondence, all of that kind of stuff. If you can, select e-statements or e-post. Again, keep your personal documents safe. Whether you have a small lock safe at home, your FI might have safety deposit boxes. Keep those things out of people's vision for sure. Your sales receipts. Again, you know, you toss those sales things out on the way out of the store. You throw them in the garbage. There's enough information on a sales receipt for a person to mimic your identity, for a person to get your information. So you want to be very, very careful of that. If you are frauded, you want to make sure that you file a complaint or file a, I don't know the word I'm looking for right now, with Equifax or TransUnion. So what will happen is that if you're frauded and you call and say, I'm sorry, your name?
My name?
Yeah, Marie. So, you know, I feel like I've been frauded. So what they're going to do is they're going to add an extra security question to your file. So before anybody can go through with any transactions of credit, they're going to have to answer that question. The same will happen with CRA. If you feel like you've been frauded, you call CRA, they will add an extra layer of protection to your account. So if you call in and you want a question, you're going to have to give them the answer to that special question that has been placed on your account. So if you're a victim of fraud or identity theft, call your FI right away. Cancel all your credit cards. Change your online passwords and notify law enforcement. We work very closely with the RCMP, and in situations of fraud, we will call them in quite frequently. However, in most cases, these fraudsters, by the time that transfer goes from your email to the supposed email, they've already intervened and that money is gone. So, you always want to be very careful. And in that situation, your FI will ask you to have your computer cleaned by a certified professional, and will not reinstate your online banking until that is done. And that is because we will not be covered. We will have no liability insurance on that at that point in time, unless you have verification proof for us that your computer has been cleaned and is free of viruses.
And there you have it. That wraps up this special edition of Roundtable, designed to coincide with Fraud Prevention Month. Our thanks to Telile Community Television's Nick Boudreau and Callen Cowan for filming and formatting the footage that you've just seen from the We Care Days event at St. Louis Parish Hall in Louisdale. If you'd like to see more of the footage from that specific event, the entirety of the presentation is available on Telile's YouTube channel for you to view anytime. Be sure to follow Telile on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok as well. And if you have any suggestions for future editions of Roundtable, feel free to contact me directly or just to speak to Telile Community Television in Arashat. For now, I'm Adam Cook. Thank you once again for joining us for this special edition of Roundtable. I look forward to seeing you again next week with a brand new show. Bye for now.